Royal family live, tensions erupt as Harry and Meghan furious over Archie and Lilibet titles. King Charles III is expected to appoint Archie and Lilibet Prince and Princess, but they will not be given HRH status. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are reportedly furious about the titles their children will receive, following the death of the Queen. The King has agreed to issue letters patent that will confer his youngest grandchildren Prince and Princess, but they will not be given HRH status. The Sussexes have argued that this will leave their children with inadequate security and reportedly pointed out that Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie possess HRH status but are not working royals. A source said, Harry and Meghan were worried about the security issue and being Prince and Princess brings them the right to have certain levels of royal security. There have been a lot of talks over the past week. They have been insistent that Archie and Lilibet are Prince and Princess. They have been relentless since the Queen died. But they have been left furious that Archie and Lilibet cannot take the title HRH. GB News, MPs slammed for skipping the queue in Westminster Hall to visit Queen's coffin. However, despite the miles-long queue, several MPs have been skipping the queue in Westminster Hall to visit Queen's coffin. A House of Commons spokesperson confirmed that members of Parliament can view the Queen's coffin without having to queue for miles, and can also bring up to 4 guests. Criticizing the act, journalist Dominique Samuels told GB News, "I think it's completely wrong thing to do. It was supposed to be about national unity with the Queen passing, instead it creates the impression that these politicians are far too above the common people that are far too good to queue up with them. It begs the question of would they be paying their respects?" Buckingham Palace caves after thousands of complaints to allow Harry military uniform. The palace has reversed its decision to ban Prince Harry from wearing his military uniform at a final vigil for Her Majesty the Queen following a large public backlash. As he is not a working member of the royal family, it was initially understood he would not be permitted to wear the uniform in spite of his previous military career, which included 2 tours of Afghanistan. Royal author and editor Omid Scobie tweeted, "In a dramatic U-turn, palace officials have informed Prince Harry that he can wear his military uniform at a final vigil." On Saturday evening, Harry will join 7 other grandchildren at Westminster Hall to stand in silence for 15 minutes by the Queen's coffin. GB News, like Queen Mother Camilla praised for her support to King Charles. Queen Consort Camilla has been praised for supporting King Charles and has been compared to the Queen Mother by a senior journalist Petronella Wyatt on GB News. Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles met for the first time in 1970 at a polo match and started dating. They broke things off when Charles went off to sea. Carving out similarities between the Queen Mother and Camilla, senior journalist Petronella Wyatt said, "The great thing about Queen Consort is different from being the Queen. And she is quite like the Queen Mother because the Queen Mother was very bubbly, very relatable. She was there to support her husband, who in some way, I suppose was a weak man, not utterly similarly to King Charles. But she didn't seek the spotlight for herself. So both these women are pole opposition of Meghan, for example, and that's what the Queen Consort should be." UN Secretary-General says Queen leaves vacuum impossible to fill. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has described the Queen as a reassuring and inspiring presence and an anchor of stability across decades of often turbulent history. He continued, "She was a consummate diplomat. And she often wielded her diplomatic skills as the only woman in the room." Guterres added, "For 7 decades, Queen Elizabeth II transcended her role to connect at the most human level with everyone she met, world leaders and ordinary people alike. And for that, she was among the most respected and loved global leaders of our age." Queen Elizabeth's passing leaves a vacuum that will be impossible to fill. Meghan Markle and Sophie Wessex to follow Queen's funeral procession by car. Meghan Markle and Sophie Wessex are expected to follow the Queen's funeral procession by car. The pair were agreed put together in a vehicle to travel to the Palace of Westminster on Wednesday afternoon. The Princess of Wales is also expected to be in the procession along with the Queen Consort, also traveling by car. More than 300 get medical assistance and queue for Queen's coffin. Almost 300 members of the public in the queue to see the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II to pay their respects to the late monarch needed medical attention since Westminster Palace opened on Wednesday afternoon. According to the London Ambulance Service, ambulance teams treated some 291 people waiting in the queue, with 17 of them needing hospital treatment. An LOTH spokeswoman said, "Working with our partners, we cared for 291 patients yesterday up until midnight along the Lying in State queuing route and surrounding areas, including Hyde Park, Whitehall, and Millbank. 17 of these patients were taken to hospital." Almost 300 members of the public in the queue to see the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II to pay their respects to the late monarch needed medical attention since Westminster Palace opened on Wednesday afternoon. According to the London Ambulance Service, ambulance teams treated some 291 people waiting in the queue, with 17 of them needing hospital treatment. An LOTH spokeswoman said, "Working with our partners, we cared for 291 patients yesterday up until midnight along the Lying in State queuing route and surrounding areas, including Hyde Park, Whitehall, and Millbank. 17 of these patients were taken to hospital.